Alright everybody, we're here today with a different kind of video. Today we're going to recap our investigation of the USS Hornet. All those episodes have dropped on the channel, so now we're just going to discuss the experiences we had while on board. So USS Hornet, what'd you think?
Yeah, I think it was pretty exciting. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff going on there for my first investigation.
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, the USS Hornet was actually the first investigation we did for YouTube. So some of you may see the episodes and wonder, why it seemed we didn't know what we were doing or things like that. I mean, we were brand new to it, so that was our first investigation. Something that, it takes some time to get used to. The other thing is with our videos, you'll notice we don't highlight evidence, we don't circle evidence. That's because we want to bring you the evidence the way we see it in the moment and let you make your own determination on how to look at that evidence and figure out what you believe it is. So that's why the videos are the way they are. And we don't dramatize any of our reactions. The reactions you hear from us are our reactions in the moment. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Kind of like what you said. It was we kind of learned as we went.
Yeah. And it's definitely a learning experience.
And I'm sure each other place we investigate will show that we kind of learn from some mistakes or something we forgot about, or
Definitely. And I don't know though. The Hornet, there was some interesting stuff. It started with the evidence we started getting in the admiral's quarters, with the REM pod going off, like constantly. It just, and then I think you had something touch or blow on your ear in the captain's quarters.
Yeah, right behind the ear. And there was no vents. Remember, there was no vents.
No ventilation.
We had to ask to confirm that, and there was no flowing air, or no reason that should have happened.
And that actually, if I remember correctly, that happened after me and Troy had walked in there and we heard something tapping on the wall there.
Okay.
And Troy's reaction, he reacted to it, so we both heard it. It was almost like a knocking sound. And then you came in afterwards, and me and you were in there when you had your experience. So definitely it started out very interesting. And there was some crazy stuff. The REM pod hits were interesting. And then, if you remember, in the teletype room, there was that room was really active for us.
Yeah, that's when it started to seem kind of real.
Yeah,
right?
we
a lot of stuff. We're just
well, we had the REM pod, and then that was the first room where we had music box activity, which, the music box works off of a motion sensor. So the fact that the music box was pointed out the door and there was nothing out there that could have been moving, for that music box to go off the way it was, and then the REM pod, and it was just, the music box, that was crazy. That's when it really sunk in. It was, hey, we're experiencing something.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was pretty wild.
And then throughout the night we had some things. I mean, we had a lot of flashlight play and some REM pod activity, some interesting responses on Spirit Talker, Ghost Tube. There was definitely some interesting responses on there.
Some unexplained noises.
Yeah. And I don't know, I can't remember if in the video the camera audio captured it, but when we were in the chapel, we heard some pretty loud bangs out in the hallway that sounded like something just almost like a shelf crashed over or something,
Yeah.
And that happened twice when we were in the chapel. So hopefully, I don't know. I can't remember if the camera audio caught it, but I know we reacted to it.
Yeah, I can't remember if it did when I reviewed too.
Yeah.
You know, but it sounded pretty loud to me.
I know we reacted to it. I know we, hey, did you hear that? But yeah, it sounded like somebody knocked over like a huge metal shelving unit or something out in the hallway.
It sounded pretty heavy.
Yeah,
it was like, yeah.
That was crazy. And then when we were setting up in the chapel, a lot of the devices were going off while we were setting up. I mean, we were having the REM pod going off, the dead bell. I mean, it was
music box, dead bell.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was in the when we were setting up in the chapel, it was pretty crazy.
I felt to me that was one of the crazier rooms.
Yeah, but me, yeah. What I felt is it was crazy when we were setting up, but then it was like once we got set up and we were actually conducting our session, there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, we did get some dead bell responses.
Like maybe it wasn't as wild as when we first set up, huh?
Yeah, when we first went in there to set up.
Because 3 big devices, were going off all at once.
Yeah.
I mean, it was ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
ding,
and that's the thing. That was during the setup. I mean, but once we had everything set up and we were ready to start our session in there, it was almost like, we got a little bit of, I think, a couple hits on the flashlight. The dead bell.
Didn't the music box still go off?
I don't think, not really? After the setup, I don't believe. Yeah, I don't believe so after the setup. And even that REM pod that was going off by the chaplain's office kind of died off.
I can't remember, did the static cam die in that room?
Yes, the static cam. So we had a static cam set up facing the doorway that we entered the chapel through, hoping to catch, anything in the hallway, shadow figures, something, because in that hallway, well, all over the ship, people have seen shadow figures and apparitions. But when we got done with our session and went over, we noticed that the static camera was dead. And then when I checked the card, there was no footage on the card on that camera. So we didn't get any of the static footage. But yeah, that was the chapel. There was a lot of activity.
And it's possible if it was running still, it could have caught the noise since it was close to a door.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. And that's really what I was hoping for with that static cam after we heard those bangs, is that, hey, the static cam should have caught that because it was so close to that doorway right there in the hallway. So, but overall, guys, the Hornet was interesting, especially, being our first go at this and being taking on such a large location, and a location with, so many reports of different types of activity. For us to take that on for the, our first go around, it was pretty good. We definitely got some activity. I mean, I would say it's definitely haunted. I mean,
oh yeah,
just the feelings, and that's the thing that's hard to get across on camera too, is the feelings that you get that you're experiencing. The chills. And when we say the chills, or hey, it got cold in here, it's not that, oh, it's it's just a little colder in here. Like, your hair on your arm stands up, and you get goosebumps, and those aren't normal reactions. And, we would get that in certain areas, while in other areas where we weren't really getting any activity, we weren't really getting any feelings. So, it's kind of interesting how that stuff coincides, but it's hard to relay that in video for the viewers, just what we're feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what other things stick out about the Hornet for you?
Well, I'll just say the ship itself was pretty amazing. I mean, just to go inside and to see how everything's laid out, like the plan of it, like it almost seems like you could actually get lost.
Oh yeah. It's
all these rooms.
It's definitely, you could definitely get lost.
Yeah.
I mean, And I will say too, if any of you guys are ever interested in going there and doing an investigation or just taking their tour, the group that helped us, the crew that they had that night to assist us was amazing. They were friendly, they were courteous. They took us to, in the beginning, they took us to areas that we wouldn't have access to later in the night and gave us all the time we wanted to investigate those areas that we wouldn't be able to come back to. So shout out to that crew on the Hornet. They were amazing. Oh
yeah, don't forget when we started closing everything up about the whistle.
Yeah, well, I was gonna. Yeah. That'll be one of the last things we touch on. But yeah, unfortunately, one of the most amazing things that happened, in my opinion, that night, we weren't able to capture on audio or camera because we were packed up for the night.
Everything was almost all packed up.
Yeah,
turned off. I mean,
it was. So I guess we can go ahead and go into it now. So when we did our investigation, they set us up in the sick bay. That was our home base. That's where we were able to set up all of our equipment, plug in any chargers that we needed, things like that. And in the sick bay, you come out of the room that our home base was in, and it was a hallway that T-sections into another hallway. And that whole area down there is the sick bay. There were, operating rooms and medical rooms and all that stuff. And we're in our home base packing up for the night. My camera's broken down, packed up. All the equipment is put in the cases. Like we're ready to go for the night. And all of a sudden, we hear something walking down the hallway whistling. And it wasn't just one whistle. It was, like if you were strolling in the park whistling, that's what it sounded like. And all three of us heard it. We all reacted to it at the same time. And Chris and Troy were able to, because they still had their
yeah, we had the cameras. We were just putting the cameras down.
Yeah.
With them already off at the time.
Yeah, and they quickly grabbed their cameras, fired them up, and ran out there, and there was nothing out there. Now, it has to be mentioned that is the same hallway that earlier in the night we were, going through the different medical rooms, and we heard a bang at the other end of the hallway, and then Chris also, when we were in one of the medical rooms, had seen what he thought was a shadow figure in that same hallway. So, after hearing the whistle, even though we didn't capture any of it, I started putting things together, and it just makes sense because, you saw that shadowy figure at the same end of the hallway that we heard that bang, which was at two completely separate times. Yeah. And then we got the whistle, and so that was to me, that was definitely the craziest thing of the night, because you could literally hear somebody walking and whistling down the hallway, almost like a doctor doing his rounds,
like
or
you're
something.
Strolling,
yeah,
taking a walk, or you're working, but you're going to grab something. You're in a happy mood, just whistling.
It was insane.
But what's funny? It's about what we were talking about the other day too. Like, because obviously we've done a few investigations after this that everyone will end up seeing. But it seems like anytime we're gonna finish, or when we're about to wrap stuff up, you get more activity.
Activity starts popping off. Yeah.
And that's kind of like what it felt like with that. Like, even though we had everything turned off, almost all packed. Yeah. And then here's something that's just wanting us to keep going.
It's wanting you to stay. It's trying to keep you there. And so, by the time you guys see this video, all 4 episodes of the Hornet investigation will be online. I know everybody's probably like, why is there so many episodes? Our goal is to keep the episodes to an hour long. If I would have done it as one video, you're looking at probably 3.5, 4 hours of video.
Which is quite a long time to just be at the TV.
and I mean, I watch other YouTubers that do this and things, and they put out great content, but when I see an investigation and it's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour video, I'm not going to be able to sit and watch that thing all the way through. I'll watch about an hour, I'll take a break, I'll come back to it later or the next day, finish watching it. So our goal is to, keep the episodes to about an hour long, so you can watch that hour, and then guess what? The following week, the next episode will drop, and then once we wrap up, that particular location, so like the Hornet happened to be, 4-hour-long videos, or close to it. So 4 episodes. Some smaller locations, maybe 2 episodes, 3 episodes. And then we're even doing some stuff that might only be, an hour or less, depending on,
what type of location.
Yeah. So, we're the amount of episodes per location is going to be dependent on the location and how long we're there investigating. Because again, my goal is to keep the episodes to about an hour long, just so it doesn't get, I don't want to say boring, but monotonous, I guess.
And it should always end off at a good point, anyways.
And we try our best when we get to that hour mark to leave it off on something that's going to make you want to see it next week, to see what happens. That may or may not always happen. It just depends on where the investigation takes us. But, so that's why. That's why, when you see the 4 episodes of the Hornet, I mean, we were on the Hornet for, 14 hours?
Yeah, a good while.
So, I mean, that's a lot of video footage. And think about it. Basically 4 hours of footage is what was used out of 14 hours of footage. So
with multiple cameras.
Right. And so... I mean, a lot of things, a lot of dead time, stuff like that was cut out. So, we're trying to, bring the active parts of the investigation and like I said, keep it to about an hour an episode, just to kind of keep you guys interested. And me personally, as a viewer, that's what I would prefer. But, hey, if you guys think it should be done differently or want to see something different, leave us a comment or, message us, email us, whatever. We're open to suggestions.
Or possibly maybe after we get quite a few, maybe we could make a similar something to like a whole DVD version of all the episodes and keep them all one huge episode each or something.
I mean, there's definitely things that can be done, but again, with this being a new channel and with us, just kind of dipping our toes in the water, I'm going with what I feel as a viewer I would want to see, which, is no more than an hour per episode.
And if you are ready for more than an hour, click next if the other one's up, right?
Yeah, if the other one's up, just, you could binge once, right now, all 4 episodes are up. You could go to and they're in their own playlist. So they're, I'm putting the episodes per investigation in their own playlist. So, the Hornet, there's a USS Hornet playlist. So you could start at episode 1 and play the playlist all the way through episode 4 if you want to sit there for almost 4 hours and watch it all the way through. It's completely up to you. But, as a viewer myself, I just feel that that's the best format. But again, we're open to suggestions. If you know of any locations that you'd like to see us go to, again, you can message us with that information. I mean, I've got a whole list of locations that I personally want to do. I can tell you places like Pennhurst and Waverly Hills and Indiana State Sanatorium and Ohio State Reformatory. All the big locations that you guys have seen the bigger YouTubers go to are on my list, because they are some of the most active locations that are available. But if you know of any, little known locations that you'd like to see us go to that are available, for us to access, let us know.
And that's a huge goal of ours, is we want to do places that haven't been seen as well.
Right. Which, in this, what I'm learning in this, that's kind of hard to come by unless somebody knows of a location that they can get us access to that maybe hasn't been investigated or hasn't been investigated much.
So we know there's a lot of places out there.
Oh, there's a ton. But yeah, so I mean, our goal is to continue doing these investigations. I mean, we've already done, I'm not going to say what we've done in this video because this is, going to air right after the Hornet episodes. But rest assured, we've already done some other locations that were amazing that we will probably revisit again. That were that good. But if you know of any locations that maybe in your hometown you guys got a little bar or saloon or somebody that
old historical place that has
or even if you know somebody that owns an old house or something that is known to be haunted and they want to let us come in and investigate.
Yeah, because we may do our aunts in
Jacksonville, we
Florida.
may. That's something we're thinking about doing. Is our aunt in Jacksonville, Florida, has a house that she believes is haunted, and people have had a lot of experiences in there, and we're talking family members, and we'll probably end up investigating her house, and that'll be on the channel as well. So, again, we're in this to go out and investigate and get this evidence and allow you guys to view the evidence for yourself. That's why we don't, if we think we see an orb or something, I'm not going to circle it in the video. I want you guys to be able to watch the video and see the evidence for what it is and make your own determinations. If you, and that's, with that, you may watch the video and see something that we may not have seen. So feel free to comment, hey, at this, this time mark, I saw this. It could be something that we missed, As everybody knows, things like orbs, those are hard to decipher because, dust and bugs and unless it's a really well-defined orb, it's kind of hard to say, oh, that's an orb, And you may hear us in the video at some points going, hey, I just saw an orb. It may not be an orb, but that's why we don't circle it, because we're not going to call it an orb, because we don't necessarily know for sure.
But exactly what you see is what you get, and we're not going to pump anything up to make it look like it's something that it's what we see is real, and you view it the way you want to view that. Exactly,
and that's the thing. And there's some entertaining YouTubers out there that do this that are great that I personally watch. But sometimes I want to be able to see it and make the determination for myself. And like there's been times where I've been watching somebody's video and I heard something and was like, oh, did you hear that? And then before they even pointed out, I'm like, I heard that. So I've already made the determination for myself that there was a sound, and then they're pointing it out. But I don't want to get into the habit of pointing things out to make you guys feel like we're telling you what to see or what to hear.
Or if we do point it out, it's because we're pointing out to each other while we're trying to get the evidence, right?
Yeah, and what I mean by pointing it out is in the video editing portion, like I said, I'm not going to circle things or, I'm not going to put, unexplained sound on the screen or what, because I want you to hear it. If you didn't hear it, then you didn't hear it, but that's your determination to make as the viewer, is look at our evidence and make your determination on what you feel was captured. Okay, just like if we have yet, that to my knowledge, we have yet to catch a shadow figure on camera. But if we do, in the editing, I'm not going to circle it and replay it to make you see it. If you see it, you see it.
And most likely we might be seeing it on the video.
Yeah,
right?
of course, yeah.
Do you see that?
If we see it, obviously, in the moment, we're going to talk about it. But that's not to make you say, oh, I see it too.
Yeah.
Otherwise, again, we would circle it in the editing, and how some people, they'll replay the same clip over and over, and that's great. I have no problem with people pointing out evidence.
No, but, it's just the way they want to do it.
Yeah, everybody's different. And again, my goal for our channel was to bring you our investigations the way they happened and let you determine what you see in here. Okay? And again, if that's something you feel differently about, we're open to comments. And it's none of this is to, again, I'm not talking bad about any other investigators or anything doing this, because I enjoy their footage. I enjoy
I enjoyed all the big guys we see on there.
I enjoy, all the investigators that I watch that do this. I have the utmost respect for. And however they do their production, I have no issues with it, because I will watch every single episode.
That, and we know how you feel after doing these long investigations.
Yes.
And we see some of them doing back to back to back.
Exactly.
Content keep coming out, so we know what goes behind that.
Yeah, these guys, anybody doing this, it can take a toll on you. And we've only done a handful right now, and it can take a toll on you, and it wears you out. And
I'll tell you, I know I feel pretty drained after.
And then not only that, think of it, and you come out of these investigations, they're long nights, you're tired. Once you get back home with all the footage, then what happens? You got to sit for hours and edit it all, and put it all together.
It's not just going to investigate. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot behind this. So, and again, being new to this, I'm not a professional editor. I'm editing these things the way that I think is best, and my editing, I can see over time. In just the handful of episodes we've done, my editing is improving, and things are, each episode seems to be a little better in the editing.
So we know that as we move forward with every investigation, every video editing, it's just going to get better and better, and
And again, but the one thing that with the editing that I'm not going to do is highlight evidence. Unless, like I said, unless the viewers decide that's what they want, then
that, or maybe we really feel like we had to, because but that's up to how you feel when you're editing, right?
Yeah. For the most part, I think the format we're going to use, that we are using, is probably the best for how I feel right now. But again, that can always change. If I'm getting comments or things like that from people that, want to see something different, okay, we may go that route.
And they will see other people as well in some of these upcoming investigators, not just us two.
Correct. So in with the Paranormal Task Force, it's the team that goes to a location is going to be based on where the location is, okay? For example, you may see Steve along with me on an investigation, and that's because that investigation may be on the East Coast, where he's, the closest person I have to go with me. Most of the West Coast stuff, you're going to see Chris and myself, and maybe Troy, who was with us on the Hornet. We've got Chris Jr., who has been on one investigation with us thus far.
Which he has a lot to... it was a big thing for what he did.
Well, we won't discuss the location, but... But, we're also open to any of you guys that are investigators that are going to a location, and you need extra, people to come along or whatever. Reach out to us, because we're open to pretty much go anywhere, within reason. We've been to the East Coast already. We've, done stuff on the West Coast. We've yet to hit the Midwest yet, but it's coming.
We got places lined up. We got them on our list.
So, with that, if you're an investigator, or, you're starting a YouTube or you have a YouTube and you want us to collab with you and go on an investigation, let us know. We're open to it. We'll bring our own equipment. We'll bring our own cameras, and
especially if they happen to be in our neck of the woods or something.
I mean, we can share footage. We can do our own footage. Whatever you guys want to do. So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, the Hornet was a lot of fun. It was a good first experience, and it actually gave me the itch to do more. Let's plan the next location. Let's do this.
And it felt good to get it under the books. We were talking about doing it. Just kept leading up to it.
Well, yeah, we talked about it for a while, and it was good to finally make it happen. And obviously, we had certain equipment to take with us, and even since the Hornet, our equipment collection has grown. So now, you may see some different equipment in other episodes. So we're constantly trying to move forward with this and improve it, and again, make it what we would enjoy seeing from other investigators. We do take a lot of what we watch from other investigators and try to figure out how to better ourselves using the videos we've watched from people that have been doing this a lot longer. So again, I think you'll see a constant improvement in the investigations themselves as well as the video editing. I mean, that's what it's about, is just to continue growing the channel. Which, by the way, if you guys haven't yet, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube. Hit the bell so you'll get notified when new episodes go up. Okay?
And like you said earlier, our goal is to try to get them out every week. Right?
Yes. Right now...
every week, hopefully.
Right now, the goal is a new episode release every Friday. Now, obviously, that's going to depend on...
Or at least... And if we can't, we will put out some type of content.
Some kind of content, maybe something like this, or obviously the episode a week is going to be dependent on locations, scheduling, because some of these locations, guys, are they're you can't necessarily go on the date you want to go.
Yeah, they could be booked up.
For example, I'm not going to name the location, but the location that we just finished, we originally had planned to do before the Hornet.
Yeah, you reached out to them quite a while ago.
And that was months ago. So it took us, months to finally be able to get a date at the location that we just finished.
And we're lucky because they don't even do it all year.
Right.
I mean, a certain amount of time.
So, and that's the thing. These, some of these locations aren't open year round. Some of them are open, only on weekends. Some of them are only open, a few days a week. And so it depends on the location schedule, our schedule, and that's what's going to really determine the one episode a week. But if we're not able to put an episode out, we're going to try to put out some kind of content, whether it's, something like this where we're recapping a location, or maybe discussing a location that we have scheduled that's upcoming, is another thing we could do.
Or possibly something that we just want to talk about.
Yeah.
Our thoughts on that place, or,
right. So, but either way, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you're alerted when we do put new content up, okay? Any final thoughts on the Hornet?
It was pretty awesome, and I hope you guys enjoy watching it.
Definitely. With that being said, we're going to wrap up this video. And as you can see, this is one of those times where it's not an hour episode.
This is something you're going to see like,
so this is
content
just
to watch.
Yeah, this is just something recapping our Hornet investigation and how we felt about it. One thing I will say before we get out of here, if you do go to the Hornet for an investigation, beware of the ladders.
Yeah,
or what they call stairs.
They're very steep steps that look like ladders.
They're not stairs, okay? They are more like ladders. Some of them are easier to go down backwards than forwards, and it can, if you're not expecting it.
And when you're carrying cameras,
when you're carrying gear, if you go there not expecting that, by the time you get to your actual investigation alone time on the ship, you're going to be wore out. Yeah. I know I was.
Yeah.
It was pretty daunting. So just be aware of that if you do decide to go there and investigate. I highly recommend it. I just want, like I said, I want people to be aware of what to expect.
Yeah, it's a cool place. Like I even went back for the normal day tour. I mean,
yeah. And what was cool is even on the normal day tour, you were able to access a lot of the places that we did during the investigation.
Yeah, a lot of the places, you just get to see what it's like during it was kind of nice to see it during the day.
Yeah.
And actually, I was actually able to go outside.
Yeah, up on the flight deck. Yeah. And see, and that's the thing. So, and that's the other thing. If if you're interested in investigating a location, I personally would recommend seeing if they do a daytime tour, and maybe do the daytime tour first, so you kind of get familiar with the location, and then that way, when you do your investigation, you've already been there, you've already toured the property or the
you kind of got to plan. You got it planned out in your head, kind of what you want to do, where you
exactly. Because the one thing I will say too with these investigations is time will get away from you. So, you'll go to an area and say, hey, I want to investigate this. And the activity will start being off the charts. And before you know it, you've been in that area for 2 hours. And that's 2 hours out of the time you have in the location. So, there's some locations that we've been to where, we weren't able to investigate the entire location. We'll go back, and when we go back, we'll focus on the areas that we weren't able to hit the first time.
And what's crazy is, if we happen to be there a long time when it's going off crazy, if we left and let's say we wanted to come back, sometimes it might not be as crazy again. Right?
Sometimes the activity just isn't there.
It's almost like we left, and they're
it's almost like they're mad that you left when they were interacting with you.
So sometimes that's what wants us to keep staying there, right? Like when it's going crazy.
And that's the thing. We try not to leave an area if we're getting a lot of activity, but at some point, you just have to, because you have so many other areas to cover and so little time to do it. So it's kind of like, okay, well,
you got to throw in the towel.
It's like, okay, hey, we're getting a lot of activity here, but we've got all these other areas to hit. So we're gonna move on from here, and we're gonna go hit these other areas. But even doing that, there's areas that even on the Hornet, I mean, even though we had so long on there were some areas, that we didn't investigate, that we could have, that we had access to.
Yeah, because that place had a lot of so many little rooms here and there.
I will say this on the Hornet. Even though you can't access the areas they walk you through when, before you're on your own, you still get plenty of time to investigate those areas. They give you plenty of time to do that.
And they stay on the whole other side while we're doing our thing too.
But even when we were on our own, we had so much time, but so much of the ship available to us, and so we didn't hit everything. I mean, we hit what we thought would be, the best areas, but there's so much more to that ship. So, eventually we will probably go back. But there's bigger fish to fry for us.
I'd like to try to do some other type of ship too.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. I mean, well, I know there's,
that way we could kind of compare it to that one.
Yeah. So, but anyway, guys, with all that being said, we're going to get out of here. We're going to close this out. We hope you guys enjoyed this recap, us telling you how we felt about the investigation and kind of explaining what we're doing with our channel. But again, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll see you in the next video.